disco. They'd never really done it before, they'd hinted. But this was all-out disco. It showed that they could do disco better than the rest.
The members of Earth, Wind, and Fire took an insane secret with them to their graves, and you won't even believe it. At first, everything about the group felt bright and full of energy, like nothing could go wrong. But cracks began to show beneath all that shine.
Between Maurice and them, something clashed, something didn't work out. So he just started a new band. He had to deal with Warner Brothers, and that fell apart once the band.
Before long, tension started to build, and some members decided they'd had enough.
This began to take proper control, and they slimmed down to an 8-piece. They got rid of a lot of the members who they're recruiting, leaving just him and Vadim from that original lineup.
Unfortunately, not everyone got the kind of ending they hoped for. Let's get into it. Maurice White was the man behind the legendary band Earth, Wind, and Fire, and he was deeply into astrology. His zodiac sign, Sagittarius, is ruled by elements of fire, earth, and air. That unique mix actually inspired the band's name, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
The name Earth, Wind, and Fire came from my astrological chart. Me sitting in the kitchen one day with the chart out in front of me, and I saw the elements, and I started to put the elements together.
When Maurice started putting the group together in Los Angeles, he held auditions to find the right people. He played percussion and also sang lead vocals. The group eventually grew to include Michael Beale on guitar, Chester Washington on reeds, Leslie Drayton on trumpet, and Alex Thomas on trombone. Leslie Drayton also worked as the band's arranger, helping shape their sound and direction. In 1971, they dropped their first album, Earth, Wind, and Fire, under Warner Bros. Records. It didn't take long before people started paying attention. The album hit number 24 on Billboard's Top Soul Albums chart and even went gold in France. Critics loved their unique sound. Some compared them to Sly and the Family Stone, or The Fifth Dimension. A Detroit writer said he couldn't even label their sound because it was this crazy mix of gospel, jazz, blues, and rock, all rolled into one. That same year, the band also worked on the soundtrack for Sweet Sweetback's Barassus song, a movie by Melvin Van Peebles. The funky soundtrack hit number 13 on the Billboard R&B chart and gave the band serious buzz. Maurice's creativity and drive were starting to show. Earth, Wind, and Fire was just getting started. In the early days, Earth, Wind, and Fire was still finding its footing. They worked hard in Los Angeles and caught the attention of Warner Brothers, where Perry Jones became their main contact.
Anyway, Earth, Wind, and Fire came to Denver, and we had a conduit, Perry Jones, who actually claimed to fame as discovering me and Philip. He was an A&R guy for Warner Brothers, so that's how he knew Maurice, and so it all kind of got interconnected.
By this time, the group was struggling financially after 3 albums. Though their shows attracted white college audiences, they weren't getting the radio play or label support they needed. Warner Bros. Didn't know how to market a black band that didn't fit into R&B or jazz. Tensions grew. Some members felt cheated out of publishing money, others quit, and some claimed Maurice fired everyone himself. Things got worse when a new sales director at Warner openly showed racism, nearly pushing Perry Jones to quit. Maurice, however, refused to give up on his vision of a black band selling out arenas like the Beatles and Stones. Around Christmas 1971, he disbanded the group and started over.
Between Maurice and them, something clashed, something didn't work out. So he just started a new band. He had to deal with Warner Brothers, and that fell apart once the band broke up.
By early 1972, Maurice and Verdine were back in Hollywood building a new lineup. Philip Bailey recommended keyboardist Larry Dunn, and soon Dunn, Bailey, and saxophonist Andrew Woolfolk, friends from Denver's music scene, joined the band. Bailey's gospel background and high falsetto became key to the new sound.
I love my brother.
Right.
I wasn't,
You know.
I was gonna stick it out.
I had auditioned as a drummer.
Maurice later brought in Jessica Cleaves, Ronnie Laws, Roland Bautista, and Ralph Johnson, rounding out a lineup that finally felt like the band he'd been imagining all along. They spent countless hours rehearsing, refining their sound, and building chemistry, but they deliberately turned down small-time gigs. They wanted to protect their image and keep a bit of mystery around what they were creating. With the help of their manager, Bob Cavallo, they eventually caught the attention of Clive Davis at Columbia Records, who signed them and set the stage for their big break. In 1972, they released Last Days and Times, the album that introduced Maurice's signature kalimba sound and officially marked the rebirth of Earth, Wind, and Fire as a new, tighter, and more visionary band.
The CBS that got signed, it was Larry Dunn, Jessica, Ronnie Laws, Verdine, Michael, another guitar player named Michael, I remember.
My magical mystique, finding it all.
Perry quickly became more than just a label rep. He became close friends with Maurice and even helped guide Philip Bailey, another key member. Perry believed in them so much that when they later switched to Columbia Records in 1972, he hoped to officially manage the band. But things didn't go as planned. Columbia brought in its own management team, and Perry was left out. It hurt, especially after all the work he'd done to help the band succeed. After that, things slowly started to fall apart. By the 1980s, Earth, Wind & Fire faced new challenges. The music scene was changing. Synth pop, electronic beats, and the new wave were taking over. Some members wanted to stick to their roots, while others wanted to move with the times. That clash in creative direction caused tension within the group. On top of that, money and control became a big issue. When the band first signed their deal, they became more than just a group. They became a business. That meant contracts, ownership, and money decisions. Maurice was advised to take full control to keep things stable since the lineup had changed so often. So he signed papers making him the main owner. From then on, the setup changed. The band members were paid salaries like regular employees, sometimes with bonuses, but the real profits and royalties went to those seen as key contributors. Even though it looked like a group effort, behind the scenes, Maurice was the one truly running things. Maurice owned all the publishing rights, and he said he did it to keep everything in order and avoid the kind of money fights that had torn other bands apart. And to be fair, it actually worked for a while. The system kept things smooth and everyone got paid. But over time, some of the guys started feeling left out. They began to feel more like workers in Maurice's company than partners in something they had helped create from scratch. Not long after, Roland Bautista and Ronnie Laws decided to leave the group. That's when Philip Bailey, who was from Denver, suggested bringing in his old high school friend, saxophonist Andrew Woolfolk, to fill in for Ronnie. Andrew had been living in New York, studying under the legendary Joe Henderson, and was actually planning to start a career in banking before the offer came. To cover the space Roland left behind, the band brought in two rhythm guitarists, Al McKay and Johnny Graham. McKay had played with Ike and Tina Turner's Revue and the Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band, while Graham came from New Birth.
Something happened and they all broke up and Maurice started a new, Earth, Wind & Fire started a new band. That's how I got in.
Even with these fresh faces, though, the same tension still hung in the air. Later on, Philip Bailey opened up about it all in his book. He admitted that things weren't as perfect as they looked from the outside. Maurice didn't like being painted as the bad guy and tried to explain that leading a big group wasn't easy. You had to make hard calls, and sometimes people wouldn't like them. Some thought Maurice was a genius for keeping things tight and organized, while others believed he just wanted control and didn't want to share the power. Maurice always said he listened to everyone in the band, but with 9 different people, plus a business team, someone was always upset. One person would say, "Let's do the Tonight Show," while another would say, "Nah, skip it." Someone else might want to spend extra money adding strings to a track, and another would argue it was a waste. Touring was another headache. Some wanted longer tours, others wanted shorter ones. No matter what he did, Maurice couldn't make everyone happy. Still, Philip didn't think things were fair. He believed Maurice used his own record label, ARC Records, to make side deals that only benefited him. The rest of the band never saw that money. They weren't even asked for their opinions, and they didn't get a share of the profits they helped create. It felt like they were just employees again, not real partners in something they built together. One person who did benefit from that setup was David Foster.
With you, holding hands with your heart, see you.
He worked on the album I Am, helping write songs, arrange music, and play instruments. He was also credited as associate producer, which meant he got a bigger cut when the album made money, more than the regular band members. David was definitely talented, but the way things were handled made the rest of the group feel overlooked. They played their parts, gave their all, but didn't see any of that extra cash. It didn't sit well. David once said Maurice ran the band like a machine. Everything was sharp, disciplined, and well organized. Maurice was older, more experienced, and had been in the business much longer. The younger members were just happy to be touring and getting famous. But as time went on and success grew, people started to notice who was really calling the shots and who was getting paid the most. That's when the feeling of unfairness really started spreading. Then there was Charles Stepney, the producer and arranger who worked closely with them. He was one of the first to speak up after the album That's the Way of the World blew up. Stepney didn't think he got enough credit earlier on when they made Open Our Eyes. Maurice and a record company executive named Joe Wissert were listed as producers, while Stepney, who worked just as hard, was only credited as associate producer. That didn't sit right with him. He felt his contribution was just as important but not being recognized the same way. Maurice also made a big change when he brought Jessica Cleaves to the lineup. That meant the band now had 3 lead vocalists. Jessica had an amazing voice, and fans loved her, but she had personal struggles that affected her work. In his book, Philip said Jessica started missing shows and dealing with substance issues, which caused problems for the group. Still, they cared about her deeply. He said she was like a sister to them, warm and full of talent. But in the end, it just didn't work out. Jessica eventually left the band. Maurice later said she moved to Kansas with her husband, and even if she'd stayed, her issues would have made things tough. After she left, he decided not to add another female singer, and from then on, Earth, Wind and Fire stayed an all-male group. Sadly, years later, Jessica passed away from a stroke. Not long after that, the band faced another painful loss. Charles Stepney, the same producer who helped define their sound, had a heart attack while they were working on the Spirit album. At first, he survived and was taken to the hospital, giving everyone hope. But shortly after, the band got the devastating call. Stepney had passed away at his home in Chicago.
We get a phone call. I get a phone call, and it says Charles Stepney just passed away of a heart attack.
My grandmother and grandfather would have known, oh, his sugar's probably too low, take his sugar, give him some juice or something like that. But we didn't know.
Philip said they were all heartbroken. Stepney wasn't just part of their music, he was part of their family. Maurice said it hit them hard. They never saw it coming.
Spirit was a song that was written for Charles Stepney after he passed, and it was something to keep his spirit alive around us.
Losing Charles Stepney changed everything for the band. It wasn't easy moving forward without him. His creativity and guidance had helped shape Earth, Wind and Fire into something truly special. And without him, things just didn't feel the same. Later on, Stepney's kids even sued Maurice, saying their father never got the money he was promised, that he was owed royalties for the music he helped create. Maurice denied it all. He said he didn't owe anything and didn't know what they were talking about. Still, it was another tough chapter in the band's story. As Earth, Wind and Fire got bigger, their shows became more elaborate. Bright lights, wild costumes, and top-of-the-line sound setups. But all that flash came with a huge price tag. Recording wasn't cheap either, since they used the best studios and equipment. The expenses just kept piling up, and keeping the show running meant spending more and more. Maurice had always dreamed big. He didn't just want to make hit songs, he wanted to build an empire. That's why he started his own label, Kalimba Productions, and dreamed of creating a massive studio where the band could record freely without outside help. It was an ambitious idea, but it came at a cost. Maurice believed in his vision with everything he had, but paying for it all wasn't easy. Some of the band members later admitted they didn't even know where all the money was going. He poured a lot of his time and money into finding new artists and supporting fresh talent through Kalimba. But running a label takes a ton of work, and with Earth, Wind and Fire being such a big group, every little thing was expensive. By the end of the 1970s, it became obvious the band was struggling financially. They were still selling records and performing to packed crowds, but behind the scenes, all that spending and bad money management started catching up. The stress didn't just affect their finances, it started breaking down relationships within the group. Then came the 1980s, and things got even trickier. The music world was changing fast. Synth pop, electronic beats, and new wave were the new thing. Earth, Wind and Fire had built their success on a perfect mix of funk, soul, and jazz. But now some members wanted to stick with that classic sound, while others wanted to experiment. The creative disagreements led to more tension in the band.
I told Maurice, I said, sometimes we might clash. I said, I'm a contractor for Stax, and some days you might have a gig and I may have to do, so can we just,
Maurice wanted to evolve and keep up with the times, but not everyone agreed. Al McKay, the guitarist behind hits like September and Sing a Song, started feeling unhappy. He thought Maurice was keeping too much of the money and not being fair. Things got heated. The two argued a lot, even outside the studio. Then, during a tour in South America, it finally exploded. After a big argument, Al told Maurice he was quitting. Later, he tried to come back, but Maurice said no. When Al refused to fly to the next concert in Mexico, Maurice officially fired him. Others walking out.
Johnny made 2-3 gigs. I got a phone call. Yep.
And you got fired.
Yeah. No, this was before. Johnny came after I was already gone.
Most of the band was shocked. They loved Al, and losing him hurt, but Maurice didn't seem too shaken. In fact, Al leaving gave others the courage to speak up too. Some said Maurice had become too strict and didn't listen to their ideas anymore. Maurice, though, felt misunderstood. He thought the others just couldn't see his bigger vision. Even after talking to them one by one, the tension never really went away. Other talented people also came and went. One of them was Roland Bautista, a skilled guitarist who joined in the early 70s. He brought a fresh sound that helped shape classics like That's the Way of the World and Shining Star. He played a big part in their success, but sadly, Roland passed away in 2012 at age 60. Fans and fellow musicians were deeply saddened. Another key member was Fred White, an incredible drummer whose rhythms gave the band their powerful groove. He joined when he was still young and quickly became the heartbeat of Earth, Wind and Fire's Sound. Fred passed away on January 1st, 2023, at 67. The cause wasn't made public, but his death hit fans all over the world. His music still inspires generations today. As for Maurice, after he separated from the group and started a solo career, life took a difficult turn. His health started to decline when he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a serious condition that affects the brain and makes it hard to move or control your body. It causes shaking, stiffness, and weakness because the brain stops producing enough dopamine, the chemical that helps control movement. For Maurice, everyday tasks slowly became harder. The illness took its toll on him over the years, but he stayed strong as long as he could. Then, on February 4th, 2016, the world got the heartbreaking news. Maurice White had passed away peacefully in his sleep at his home in Los Angeles.
Well, if you were anywhere near a dance floor in the 70s and 80s, you know the music of Maurice White. Maurice White has died of Parkinson's disease.
He was 74 years old. His death marked the end of an era, but his legacy and the timeless sound he built still lives on.